Good evening. For tonight's Fikava Vet Chat, I have around a household name in veterinary dentistry. She was born in Slovenia, but is a diplomat of the European Veterinary Dental College and the American Veterinary Dental College. She lectures a lot, she works hard, and if possible, she travels a lot. So exactly the person I would like to speak to. So welcome this evening to Anna Nimic.
Thank you, Wolfgang. Thank you for having me tonight with you. And I do hope that I will share with you and with everyone from the Kava family some stories about how I work and how I was traveling.
That's very good. But before we start, I have to make an admission. The last time when I met you, we were sharing a taxi in Thessaloniki. And I was sitting next to you, and admittedly, I had no idea who you are. So I remember this conversation. They're saying, okay, then, and what are you doing? And so, dentistry? Sort of. Okay, fine, sort of first opinion, second opinion, also, second opinion, yes.
I have no opinion.
No opinion. And so said, okay, fine. Yeah, I'm also giving, that was as the Eastern European Regional Veterinary Conference. And I'm also giving some lectures on it. Okay, yeah, fine. And then I thought, dentistry lectures, my God, that's Anna. The thing I read quite a few of your publications. As already said, you are a household name. So I had the name there, but I couldn't put a face to it. And so afterwards I thought, you idiot, you didn't know who this lady was. So it was, afterwards funny, and I hope I didn't step on your toes, but that's the way it is sometimes. There are members of our profession that are well known, but nobody can put a face to it. So now I have a little bit more of a picture, so I'm even more pleased that you join me for the vet chat tonight. Tell me the story. How did it come? How did Anna become a vet to start with?
How did Anna become a vet?
Yes.
Anna
was it always quite clear that you wanted to become a vet?
No, not at all. And when I was graduating from the high school, we needed to do a list of 3 universities that we would like to enroll, and I really didn't know what to actually study, because I was interested in many things. And then the only thing I knew was I really don't want to do law and history. And the rest was kind of, okay, what shall we do? And then I've been doing some, I was helping a bit out at the local veterinary practice, because we've always had dogs and, some other animals at home. But it was never thought as a profession. And then that last summer, I actually again volunteered there, and it was, the more I think, the more it was because of a vet there that was doing large animal practice, and he was taking me everywhere around the country of the West Slovenia. And it was not because of the job itself, but it was because of his passion for the job. He was so enthusiastic in what he was doing, in how he was, communicating with clients, that it really made my days with him around. And then that's how I reflect now on it. And at that point, it was just, he really made me enthusiastic about it. And that's how I put veterinary medicine on my first position when I was then applying for faculties. Yeah, so it was not planned, not at all.
I think that's so refreshing, because here we have somebody who is sort of at the sharp end, or the tip of a specialty in our profession. And I often found that people that are in that position, they seem to have always this one aim, this one path in life. And then I look at myself, and it was like that. So I didn't really expect that my high school results would be good enough for to get a place at vet
Mhm.
school. And I had already a plan B, a plan C, a plan D, and I thought veterinary medicine would be nice, but it could be something else. I had several other sort of
Yeah.
plans up my sleeve. And then, surprise, surprise, I got this place at vet school. And then when I went to vet school, I met all these other students that had studied 2 years in Belgium before they were allowed into Germany. They had studied in Italy. They had learned different foreign languages in order to somehow get in. Who they had waited for a place at vet school for 5, 6 years. They had moved the earth for it.
Mhm.
Oh, sugar. They are so driven. But then, I mean, it worked out for me. It worked out for most of the others. At the end of the day, I mean, it is what you make out of it, and enthusiasm,
Exactly.
as you say. I think that is the key. You sometimes, I think, can only take the strain if you really like what you do. If you hate it every day, can you
Yeah,
be good? Possibly
definitely.
not. Mm,
No, no.
yeah.
I think you can be good, but I don't think you can release your full potential because it's not your passion. It's a job, and I many times think I never was taking. I try to obviously have my time off and kind of, but not really separating veterinary medicine from my other life. It's kind of a lifestyle. And I think from whatever job you make kind of a lifestyle out of it, it's rewarding. Probably not all will agree with that approach. And I just think, like you were saying, some people were planning things, some of us were not planning things. And if it works out for the best for you, I mean, that's the point, right? And
Yep.
yeah, so it really depends. But bottom line, I think every one of us, not just in veterinary medicine, we should be happy with what we are doing for the whole day, and then at the end of the day when you go to bed, you are just grateful for the day as it was.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's sometimes, I think, difficult, but yeah, I think that's the way you need to look at it, and you have to, I think, force yourself sometime to look at it that
Yeah.
way.
No, they are not only ups all the time, of course not.
So there we are, Anna is a vet. So how do you go from being a veterinary surgeon to going into dentistry? How does that work? Or how did that work? How
it
did that
it
happen for you?
it was not planned either. So
Okay.
because as I said, the vet at the local practice, he was a large animal practitioner. Then my idea at that point was to do large animal medicine. And I did most of my externship actually in Switzerland, mostly working with large animals, cows. That was my idea. And then very
Not much
interesting,
dentistry there, I would assume.
none. I didn't have a clue about
A,
dentistry at
a,
that point.
a
But
certain
yeah,
lack of incisive, especially on the upper jaw.
especially on the maxilla. Yeah. So no, and it's and now this may be interesting because we always try to say women are equal than men and we are all the same and so on and so forth. But for me, one of the, let's call it a bit of a breaking point, was when I was actually, it was in my 5th year of the vet school. So basically I was almost at the end of it. It was the first time that I was actually doing my field practice with a woman, a large animal medicine
Mm, mm,
person.
mm.
And at that point, there was a situation, in the middle of the night, somewhere in the mountains. We were hiking to the place where the cows were, and it was postpartum. What is it? Hypocalcemia.
Retained, yeah.
Yeah. See my general veterinary medicine knowledge now.
Come on, I'm working in the UK, and yet sort of so large animal terminology lost on me.
that that happens then to you when you go through a specialization. You know, you
Yeah,
start
yeah,
seeing
yeah,
only
yeah.
tooth becomes your patient. So that's a bit of a, you know, of a problem, I think. But anyway, so I was first time working with a woman, and at that point I was actually starting thinking, um, am I really um, really physically capable of doing this? And like, you know, for the whole career basically till I'm you know, an old practitioner. And at that point, you know, I was still thinking I will go into this, but it was just somewhere the first time that this thought occurred. And then things started, you know, just opening up. So I took the elective course of dentistry in Ljubljana with Professor Paulica, and I liked it. And then I said to myself, okay, if I pass the exam with good grades, you know, 9 or 10, you know, the highest grades, I said, I will ask professor if I can do research, student research with him. And I did so, and we started this research in like students research. And then it started just, you know, another field really opening up. And I think the more you then dig into something, the more interesting it becomes. And it all just started rolling. And then we finished that professor. Then I did my PhD with the same professor. He was my mentor for the PhD. And then I met Cedric Tat. He was doing the exam in Ljubljana, his exam for the college. And we were chatting in front of the clinic, and he said, so Anna, so what are you doing now when you are done? You know how it is when you have no plan. And then
Why
he said,
not catching a plane? Huh?
and then he said, have you ever thought of doing a residency? And said, Cedric, what is residency? And so he got me into this, and that's how the whole story was rolling. There was no. The more I look at it back, the more actually it was a little bit, or not really only a little bit, but some luck getting, you know, the right people with the right information in your life, you being able to see those information as important for you, and then grab it, okay, put a lot of work into it, and make something out, like you said before. Yeah.
Well, and you need these chance visits, I think, or meetings with
Yeah.
people who
Yeah.
suddenly have the solution, or
Exactly.
who say,
Yeah.
why don't you go that way? You're
Yeah.
standing on this juncture and you think, shall I go left or right?
Yeah.
And they say, well, I
Yeah.
think you should go
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and then, well, it might be the right choice. It might not be. I mean, we never know. Although, who dares wins, I think,
Yeah.
in the
But if
majority
you
of
don't
cases.
make a choice, you will never, you know, if you kind of just follow something that you are not even choosing, then what? You know, it's not something that you can even, yeah, get involved deeply into it.
You then spent 3 years at UC Davis, or how long have you been over
Yeah,
in
yeah. Then
California?
then when I finished the PhD in Ljubljana, then I moved to UC Davis, and I did then the residency with Professor Frank Verstraete there. Yeah.
Okay.
And then I returned back.
Yeah. So why did you return back?
You know, that is again life. Before I
Yep.
left,
Yeah.
I made two promises.
Okay. Okay.
And you know, I'm a man or a woman or a person of a word. So I
Okay.
was yeah, I returned because I said I will be returning. Uh, I and I clearly remember before I left for the States, I was having a conversation with a professor in the periodontology school. He was actually the how you call it, the main supervisor of my PhD work, not the mentor, but actually the exam kind of committee supervisor. And I asked him to write me the letter of recommendation for residency. And at that point, he asked me if we can just chat a bit about things. And I said, okay. And it was one of the most eye-opening things, eye-opening conversations in my career actually so far. And he said, how long are you going? And I said, for 3 years. And he said, okay. He used to obviously spend quite a lot of time abroad. And he said, okay, the first year you will just yearn to come back. The second year you will have no clue what to do. And the third year you will not want to come back. And that happened to me.
Okay.
So the third year
Okay.
was not really something that I was, really looking for coming back. But yeah, as I said, I planned something in my life, and I was holding my word for that, and it didn't turn out. See, so the things that I was planning didn't really go according to the plan. The things I was not planning turned out much, much better.
How does your day-to-day work look like at the moment? Is there something, I don't know, we can say how it looks like? I don't know, do you have certain, how much is it clinical work? How much is it teaching? How much research? How does it work?
So I do. So I'm at the vet school of the veterinary faculty in Ljubljana, and I am an employee there and I'm doing 100% clinical work. I do, so basically it's 4 days surgery cases and 1 day is receiving. So it's really Monday to Friday, it's clinics. And then in the winter semester, I do keep this elective course of veterinary dentistry. It's not really an enormous task because it's a small course. So it's, it's something that I just, you keep doing it and it's basically just natural. And then when students come to the clinics, anyway, I'm doing clinics, so they just are there and they help me out and they learn at the same time. So that's part of the job. And then research is actually, again, involved into all this. So I wouldn't really say that I can't really say it's no in percentage. I'm there 100% clinician, but then, it's anyway a package, especially if you are at the teaching hospital or in academia. You need to do research, and it comes just naturally to do it. If you have cases, you have material. And mostly what I'm involved in are mostly clinical studies now, because when I was doing the PhD, it was pure bench research, or basically it was laboratory animal work. And I promised to myself I will never ever do that again. But doing clinical research is what makes sense. You have you know the field, and you totally see where things are missing. So it's so much easier to plan research then obviously a bit of a problem, as it always is in veterinary medicine when it comes to research, is the number of cases. But yeah, it's when it comes to answering how it looks, it's a conglomerate of all three activities that are based on patients.
Yeah. Veterinary dentistry. I mean, if we look at it, sort of how it has developed over the last, I don't know, 20, 30 years. I still think back when I was a vet student, we had a lot of Norwegians in our group. And what the Norwegians always did was, when they got new students, they had to go through an initial test to be admitted into the Norwegian club in Hanover Vet School. And that meant that on one Saturday morning in November, it will probably be sort of around about sort of next weekend again or so, they had to meet up in the center of Hanover in the pedestrianized zone, and they had to do silly things. So there was the one guy, for example, they put a shield around his neck and said, I'm an animal voice imitator, and I can do for I don't know, 10 cents, I do the colibri, or I do the Randy Moose, or I do I don't know, something like that. It was a big guy, and so he had to do all these strange voices. Then they gave others shaving cream and said, here, sell that off as a carpet cleaner or something like that. And then they had, and just shows how old I am, and then they had this hilarious thing. They gave one Norwegian guy a couple of skulls, a skull of a cat and of a dog, and then they gave them some toothbrushes and toothpaste and tried to tell people that they should brush the teeth of their dog and cat. How hilarious was that? So, and I mean, come on, if we have a look how far this has evolved, it was at the time then considered a joke. It was considered not really something people do. And now, I don't know, if we look at veterinary dentistry in the Nordic countries, I don't know, the figures I heard and saw is every third or fourth vet is virtually employed to do only veterinary dentistry in Finland or in Sweden. So in some of the Nordic countries, they are very, very far already.
But I think it also has to do with, you know, the education that is, you know, put into certain fields. That makes an enormous difference, and that is one of the reasons why I enjoy so much being at the teaching hospital or at the vet school, actually, because you get these young people that are in training, at least a portion of them, because as I said, we have just the elective course, and you know, you have the chance to make them enthusiastic about the subject, and at the same time, you know, you transfer some knowledge, and that's how you can actually, you know, putting the efforts into several generations, and that generations, and as I said, in Slovenia, dentistry is actually also pretty well known and developed because of Professor Paulica work for the past also 25 plus years. And I think that that's what happened in Scandinavian countries, is that, you know, several individuals, companies, you know, put in a lot of effort into education.
Something that we regret here in the UK is that pretty much all conditions you encounter in a dog or a cat are covered by insurance, but dentistry.
But yeah.
I mean, unless it is a fractured tooth or so,
Yeah.
so then that's not covered. And that, I think, is a shame. In that respect, I think there is still work to do.
No, for sure.
How is that in Slovenia with pet insurance? Does that play a role?
Generally, the percentage of animals that are insured is pretty low. I can't really say the number, but just from, you know, knowing it from practicing, it's very low. And when it comes to dentistry, yes, it covers all the trauma, but obviously not chronic diseases such as periodontitis, which is the most common anyway. But at least there is something, and yeah, I really I don't really have a good insight into why is this not being more developed? Why there is, it seems to be no big interest from the insurance company sides, and I can't understand this really. Why is it?
So, but I mean, there often people themselves are not covered. I mean, I found, for example, in Germany, I find dental sort of services are often covered by your health insurance. Here in the UK, that is usually also excluded. And because it's not something people consider as part of the health insurance for humans, then it's a sort of, yeah, what shall I say, second-class treatment or something where the people, pet owners, are prepared to pay for it because they are not used to anything otherwise. Talking about the companion animal veterinary surgeons in Slovenia, I mean, we are all affected by COVID. How far is that at the moment, well, playing a role? That's a stupid question because it will play a huge role. But how are our colleagues in Slovenia dealing with it?
When we experienced the first wave in, what was it, March, April, Obviously, it was lockdown for the veterinary business as well in terms of just providing emergency care, but that only lasted for 2 weeks. And then,
Hey.
everyone got back to more or less normal business with adaptations to new situation in terms, and some things are actually much better. For example, scheduling the patients, which many of us were not doing before, like scheduling all patients, including vaccinations, everything. So that's
Mhm.
actually a positive change.
Yeah.
Going more, not some practices actually went online and tried to incorporate in their business also telemedicine, much more email consultations, phone conversations. So some things that I don't even see as minuses from all of the situation. But then, in summer, more or less, things went back to normal. And what was interesting, and it was not only at the vet school, but, also talking to some other colleagues, everyone was actually observing kind of a nice and steady growth in caseload.
Mhm.
And then, when we were, as, lay situation, looking at the situation, people were more at home, people were not traveling that much, they were more with their animals, they were more observant, general economy of the country, at least at that point, and now it's still not bad, although obviously we know, that at some point we will need to, do something with all the loans that we are getting. So probably there will be some changes in the future in terms of economical situation as well. But so far, really, I can't really say that there is much of a problem for veterinary medicine.
Let's talk a little bit about the Anna if she's not a vet and not a veterinary dentist. So admittedly, sort of, I follow your Instagram account, so I know that you are, I think, a keen bike rider.
Okay.
So there, road biking or mountain biking or both, or
It's a hybrid. It's a hybrid bike. So what is it? It's a hybrid biking.
okay.
Yeah, it's not. I do enjoy it, yes, and yeah, we sometimes talk about it outside of vet chat for Fekava. Um, it it I really need something physical in the nature, and I found biking the best for the spring, summer, autumn months, and then winter is more hiking. I don't really do much biking in winter. And it's not meant for calorie counting or whatever speed doing it or whatever. It's really to move and to just let my thoughts free, and usually doing this, yeah, it's not just releasing stress or relieving stress, it's also getting good ideas. So that's the point of it. And yeah, and obviously then teasing everyone else with with some
Yeah.
photos.
Yeah, the thing is, you are in the right country for it, because
Yeah,
I mean, Slovenia has it all. You have a little bit of a Mediterranean coast. You have the
yeah,
Mediterranean climate. You have everything you could ask for in agricultural terms. Sort of, you have rich soil. You grow wine. You have game. So there's probably also, as I said, possibly good hunting. And then, yeah, you then go up to nearly 3,000 meters with Triglav, and you have all the alpine regions as well, and everything
yeah.
within actually a
Small,
fairly
yeah.
small country. Yeah. So I
That's
think a lot of people don't know what they are missing by not having been in Slovenia.
Yeah.
So
No, as you are saying, and when when we were chatting before about coming back home, um, it was very, very difficult to come back. But then and yes, I definitely still see minuses, and most of them are related to professional practicing. But then you start really appreciating other things, like, like you're saying, having everything at hand, traveling from the Alps, let's say Triglav National Park, down to the coast to Piran, which is an awesome old city. It's a bit over 2 hours drive, and you get two totally different landscapes. So what I want to say is, living in this small country, in terms of the quality of life at this point, it's awesome. Yeah.
Anything else you do which we don't know about and you
Well,
would like to share?
if you don't know it by now, maybe it's not something you should know.
Yes, yeah. No.
What happens, as I said before, what happens when that started bugging me a little bit, is that once you go so deeply into a very small field, and discovering a certain small subject, obviously the more you are in, the more you realize that there are many things that you still don't know. But the other thing is also that because you so much focus and you put all your energy there, you start kind of losing other things that you were doing in life before. I used to, I was playing piano for 12 years. I was acting in different, how call it,
Theaters.
theaters. The spectrum of things I was doing before I went so deeply into specialization was much bigger. And I think it's related to, you have a certain amount of energy that you can put into something. But that honestly it starts bugging me a bit, that you are, you become narrow in a way. And that can actually be, it's a limitation in a way.
Wow. I thought it would take 10 or 15 minutes, and I think it took a little bit long. It was
We'll cut it
so
out.
interesting to hear your story. And also, I think it's so inspiring to see how somebody who not necessarily has this great plan when they are 15, 16 or so, but who then feels him or herself just by chance sometimes pushed in one or the other direction, follows these inputs, and then has such a rich and entertaining and interesting life as you have. So it's great, and even more so that you share your knowledge and your experience with people like me who are first opinion practitioners, and especially with so many young colleagues, not only in Slovenia, but all over Europe and then also America. Anna, thank you very much for tonight's Vet Chat. If anyone would like to comment on it or would like to post some questions, we can be emailed at vetchat@fekava.org. And obviously you can also leave messages on our social media presence. So hopefully I will see you next week again for Fekava Vet Chat with a different guest. And I'm not telling you who is it now, so wait and see. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.